This video is about how cool clocks are. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't get telling time. I totally didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. And when I became older and I became a teacher, I had to figure out how to make it make sense so I could make it make sense to my students. So I started thinking about a clock. And I started thinking about, well, what is a clock like? Well, a clock is like a circle. And circles are pretty cool because you can split them in half. And then you have two even sides. It's kind of like fractions. I have two halves here. And this is actually like a clock. You can split a clock into half. And I can split it into another half, which is pretty cool too. But I can draw lines all over the clock. I can split it into this half and this half, making my anchor numbers or my cross in the middle of a clock. But then I can split it on all these little tick marks. And each time I split it, I'm making even parts. And if I had made my lines really carefully, all these would be even or the same size, which is pretty cool. And when I thought about that and how clocks work, well, I thought, how does this even relate to minutes on a clock? Well, a clock, in the whole clock, if you're talking about minutes, you have 60 minutes in a clock. And I know this because I know I can count by fives at each tick mark. Here's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and when I get back up at the top, 60 minutes. So I know that there's 60 minutes in a whole clock. So the whole clock, this whole circle, we can think of that as equaling 60. There are 60 minutes in one whole clock. Well, let's try splitting that clock in half. How many minutes would be in half a clock? Well, I can count again. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Wait, stop. I've gotten to halfway. That means there are 30 minutes in half a clock. And since I know that these two halves are even, if there's 30 in one half, there has to be 30 in another. So, in a clock that is divided in half, there are 30 minutes in each half. 30 in this half and 30 in this half. What is 30 plus 30? Well, I know 3 plus 3 is 6. So 30 plus 30 equals 60. And 60 is our whole. That is how many minutes are in a whole hour. So if you add these two 30s together, we have our whole hour, because two halves or two 30s equals our whole hour. So now I know a half of an hour equals 30 minutes. That's going to help me a lot when I have to tell time with the minute hand.